What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Puzzle Piece Media Podcast. I'm your host, Nehemiah Wilson. If you're listening on any of the podcast apps, thank you for doing so. Hit the like, follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star review. If you're lucky enough to be watching this on the YouTube, you have my guest to thank for that, because my technology ain't all the way where it needs to be. But he has been kind enough to grace me with some admin privileges to get the video, so we can do it that way. I usually don't get to do the remote interviews on video, but we're doing it today. And so my guest today is a man that I know by many, many, many nicknames. I'm not going to run through all of them. I know him as DJ Smithsonian, Inspector Clouseau, Black RoboCop, but his name is Brian Smith, and I will let him go ahead and introduce himself and tell you who he is and what he does. And first off, thank you for being here. And I'll turn the floor to you for a moment.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you, brother, man. Look, we've been rocking for 20 years, so this is a long time coming, to say the least. I am Brian, the DJ Smithsonian. I go by several other different names. MC'd as Inspector Clouseau, was on the radio as DJ Shice Boogie at WUEV in Evansville, where Nehemiah and I went to college at. Black RoboCop on the beats. All other kinds of different things. And right now, kind of 20 years in the game, I am a semi-pro DJ, producer, make a few beats, do some remixes. Cocaine Buffs is the moniker. You can look that up on Spotify and all streaming platforms. I also have a podcast myself called The Library. It's a part of the Praise the Phrase network, where we discuss lyrics, and we discuss songs, and we just discuss hip hop in a way that's just different than, let's say, like the gossip blogs and stuff like that. Like, we really talk about how the music moves us and what the music means to us. And a lot of times we do deep dives in, some songs and talk about the history or key punchlines or figure out where samples came from. And then I'm also the curator and cartographer, if you will, of Rap Geo, the hip hop map project, where we create maps based on hip hop lyrics. And here's, an example of one. This shows the city of Houston, because, we did a Houston map, and yeah, that's kind of everything that I've been doing all over the place. Hip hop till the death. Detroit to Houston. So you see the Lions on my hat, although they fluked at the Thanksgiving game. It is what it is. And now I reside in H-Town, me and my wife. So that's me in a nutshell, my brother. That's me in a nutshell.
It's a good little nutshell. Good little nutshell. Like you said, we met. God, it's been, I guess, right at a little over 20 years ago.
Yeah,
at the University of Evansville, where he said where we went to school. I'll say where he went to school. I just lived there for a little while. I didn't spend a lot of time on the educational front, so he was there longer than me and accomplished a few more things, like graduating. But that's another story for another day. But like he said, one of the things that brought us together, obviously, if you know anything about the University of Evansville, there's not a lot of Black people to begin with. And so there's always this sort of quick magneticism, I guess, of spotting Black people on campus when you first get there, and at least going up and making an introduction and to feel comfortable for a few minutes, and then being roughly the same age that love of hip hop, just came through.
Not to mention being tall. So like both of us, when everybody seen us, they just assumed that we was going to be on the basketball team. So we're like, nah. So they was trying to move us to like the athletic shit. And it's like, nah, we don't want to do that. We're trying to get after it.
I actually had somebody from the athletic department come up and introduce themselves to me and talk about all the work we would be doing. I'm like, who are you again? And she's
Yeah,
like, oh, with the athlete. I'm like, what they got to do with me?
man, the wild shit is that so like I was there a few months ago. Before we hit record, we were kind of talking about my experiences as an alumni now. And one of the things that I remember being recruited for Evansville and talking to somebody in the athletics department because I ran track. And they were like, "Oh, well, like you can't run track here, but you can like run track the school on the other side of town." And
Yeah.
then come to find out, like they were in a different NCAA division, and running track for them while I went to school at Evansville was totally against the rules. And they got a fucking track team now.
Huh.
They got a track team. I don't know how well they doing, but they got one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, it took y'all long enough.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't have a lot in the way of athletics, when we were there. I think basketball, baseball, swimming,
Yeah, and
and
the
soccer.
basketball team wasn't no good. Now they undefeated. So we're gonna see what happens.
Well, they've been undefeated a few times, but it's always early in the year. It's always
yeah.
They always say that it'd be like November, the basketball team undefeated, and then by December roll around, things even themselves out. But one of the thing what I wanted to talk to you about today, why I brought you in, was people that know me know that I used to dabble in the rap game a little bit, spit some bars here and there. I think that just comes with the territory of age. We kind of grew up in that time when everybody was doing that. And I think what's interesting in the conversation I want to talk about is how music consumption has changed. Like how the way we take in music has changed and how that affects the music in itself. I think is a big thing, because I mean we'll say mid 30s. We won't add the late part in there, but mid 30s. And when you get to this age and you listen to music, it's like, am I out of touch? Am I the old dude sitting on the porch telling kids to get off my grass? But then I really think that when you look at it, a lot of it is just the way music is distributed, and the way it's out there is so much different than when we were 12, 13, 14, 15, and it's changed over the years. What are your thoughts?
So we're in a pretty, I think we're in good company as far as like our age group is concerned, because I mean, we've really been able to see this evolve, right? So, I mean, you might see a little bit of my setup, but I mean, I still got the wheels of steel back here. Like I still got vinyl records, Shout out to Denise LaSalle, her fine ass satin booty on the back covers. You know what I'm saying? Like this is when you knew a record was good. Like when you seen some sensual shit on the album covers. But I mean, like we grew up, we still had records, but I mean, mostly they were our parents' records, and then DJs would have records. It was like that age that we kind of came up in. But I mean, we had CDs where you still had to thumb through and figure out what you were going to do and where you were going to spend your $15 to $20.
Yeah.
And, then we evolved to like the digital age of downloading and hard drives and both of, I mean, so Nehemiah mentioned having some bars, but what he didn't mention is this motherfucker was DJing, because as I recall, between me and him, like we had all the new hotness. And what we would do is we would exchange songs with each other, because I did the radio, but at his fraternity, he was always the one behind the music at the parties. So we always would have this exchange like during the week of like what the hot songs were. And some of them were downloads and stuff. And now we're streaming. Now you can just pick up your phone and find any song in any minute.
Yeah.
And like, I think what we've lost is that tangible experience. You know what I'm saying? Like like that record had to be good.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna spend $20. If you spend $20 on an album, I remember I used to get frustrated after 2 skips.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. See, and you know, I know you grew up just outside Detroit. And so I don't know how it was as far as traffic, to get somewhere. But like for me, the town I grew up in, there was nowhere to buy music.
Mm.
So I'm making a 25, 30-minute drive to the next town over to get to a Sam Goodies at the time, or, to get somewhere to buy music. So you go back to, high school when, let's say, Ludacris, drops his
Mm-hmm.
album. It's first off, you got to have some money. You got to have that
Yeah.
$20. Then you got to, have a car, have a ride to get, 30 minutes down the road just to buy the CD. And like you said, that becomes precious. And after you do that a few times
Yeah.
for one of these CDs that you done heard the single on the radio, it's like, oh, I want this. And it turns out that single is the only good song. You start getting frustrated real quick.
Uh-huh. Oh man, like I got so many CDs that just turned into frisbees.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it's like I don't even want to hear this anymore. I don't even want to hear this anymore. And I think when we talk about the digital age, and I don't think the record industry really prepared for the digital age. I think what we see now is like the industry finally getting their feet back up under themselves, because when we were able to even when we were able to download shit like off of Napster and LimeWire and all of that stuff, we still were like trying to pull whole albums.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we were pulling whole albums or whole mixtapes and stuff like that, so there were still whole projects. And I mean, even then, even though we took the financial cost out of it, like there was a time cost. So we got the memes and everything about um giving your family computer a virus and like shutting the whole computer down just because you wanted to download one record.
Right.
But I mean, that was the world we live in. Like we used to I remember we were off the dial-up internet when I was in high school, and we used to snatch an album and hit download right before we went to school, and that bitch might not get finished by the time we come home.
Yeah.
And if anybody answers the phone between like when it started and when it stopped, like it's curtains, like you got to start another
Oh,
day.
yeah.
So you still had that time invested. And I think now we don't have that. Like it's instant gratification. And on one thing, like on one hand, I do think it's useful. So like, when we think about technology, like my last album, so I did Cocaine Buffs Volume Zero. It was a concept album my cousin and I did, and I just told him like, hey, send me your verses and I'm gonna custom make beats. And we did 3 songs, and it was great. He recorded those 3 songs on GarageBand from his phone while he was at work.
Yeah.
Like this motherfucker was just at work driving the high-low, rapping while he was at work just to keep the time. And then he sent me the verses. I was able to make all the beats here. Like I've got, like this setup that I've got here right now. Like, I mean, this would have been $25,000, $30,000 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think like that access and then the ability to just put it out in the world, like it was a couple clicks for me to just like set it out. But I think with that comes a lot of noise. And so now I worry about the craft itself, especially when it comes to hip hop, because you got so many songs trying to sound like the last song that went viral and the last song that was a hit. So we don't have a lot of the same ingenuity at the forefront that we used to. So like where is it at? Because I got my props. Like I for real got a library. So this I still buy physical media. So this is a box set from Dr. Octagon, um, MC Cool Keith, where he had this whole like concept album of being this fucking weird gynecologist from the future or some shit. And it's an amazing album. It's ridiculous, it's witty, it's got some of my favorite bars of all time. But I feel like a project like this would like just get shelved in this world now by a major label, because the major label is banking off of whatever the hit song is going to be.
Yeah.
So they're gonna just put out the song that's gonna get the most traffic and not necessarily the best project. And that's not to say that people can't come out with albums like that, but I mean it just becomes progressively harder to fight the machine when you're an independent, you know, in the sea of like viral music.
Yeah. I think definitely the access and, like you said, the time commitment. You talked about, having to download an album all day. So I was lucky enough pretty early on to get DSL, like high speed internet at the house.
Oh yeah.
So that became my new hustle. Was I could download music quick, burn CDs. So I became that dude at school for a few years. Of you give me a list of songs and $5, tomorrow you got a CD.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I remember that time period of, the Napster and the LimeWire and stuff like that. And I can, speaking for me, there were, as an artist, you had to earn my trust before I gave you my money.
Yeah.
And so, like, at the time, a Ludacris at the time for me, Eminem at the time for me, T.I., at this time, like, I would go to the store and buy these records because built up, like, I know it, I feel like it's going to be worth the money. It's a good chance I feel like this is going to be worth my $20. Whereas the new artist coming out that's got the hot song, I don't know, the song is hot, but let me check out the rest of it for free before I start committing to, putting this money in. And then, like you said, the instant gratification now is like the album comes out and it's like, I look at my phone, it's like, I don't even really want to listen to it. Like, it's all I got to do is push a button. I'll get around to it.
Or you listen to it once.
Yeah.
You listen to it once. I mean, there's so many records that I didn't listen to just once. And it's like, man, yeah, like it was cool, but like it didn't move me. It didn't move me. Like, man, I still have some of these moments. So I'm not gonna say that all new music is like this, but like I'd say the last time I really felt it, and I think it might be backwards on my whiteboard, just due to like the reflection. So like I'm gonna be like the ESPN guys, when they do the commentary, I'm gonna put something on the back of my board. So I'm testing it out. So if y'all can't read it, it says Michael for album of the year. So the Killer Mike, have you heard the Killer Mike album?
No, I've heard
Bro,
one or two songs off of it, and I've heard good things about it.
Bro, you gotta play it. So what it reminded me of, like Atlanta. So like my first time in Atlanta was maybe 2011. 2011 was my first time in Atlanta. I was stationed at Fort Benning for a hot minute for a school. And that like Atlanta's maybe like an hour and a half or so up the road. So I would go up there for a couple weekends. And like I had a 4th of July weekend in Atlanta that was fucking amazing. But like when I say it felt like Atlanta, it wasn't necessarily it felt like my experience, but it felt like it felt like in the late night, like you mentioned Tip. So like you remember like late 90s, early 2000s and Ludacris, like you listen to Tip, you listen to Ludacris, you listen to the Youngbloods, listen to Outkast, Goody Mob, like you listen and they put you in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Just the music put you there. And like Michael, it just put me in a space to where like I felt like I was there with him. And also like it's an amazing album, and I think every black man needs to listen to that album. Just because he talks about like our experiences as black men. And this was also one of the last like it's very few and far between, but on this album, like I actually was like running shit back. Like, you remember that feeling when like you be halfway through a song and the motherfucker say something so out cold, like you got to run it back, you got to rewind the tape, or you got to, like hit the CD button again and the previous track button. And that's how I felt with this record. And, like a lot of the shit now, I just listen to it and it just passes through me,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some of that, I think what I've noticed about music, listening to music today for me is like they kind of say hip hop is for the youth, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I'm not just the fact I'm in my 30s, but I got a teenage son, I got I got an 11-year-old, I got a 5-year-old. Like I'm not out living the same kind of life, and I think the music is not connecting with me in the sense of this music is not necessarily a soundtrack to my life socially. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, because we hold on to a lot of things near and dear, and we're like, this is when music was music, and it's like when you take a step back and look at it, you're like, people our age, we still harken back to to Juvenile, when Cash Money was taking over for the 99 and the 2000, like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, he didn't really say anything clever or profound on that song. It's just, that's where we were in our life. And it became, it became a soundtrack.
No, I could dig that. I could dig that. Cause like, that's the space that we were in. And I agree.
That coupled with the fact that today you see so many people with earbuds in. And so they're listening to the music, through probably 9 times out of 10, their phone. They've got earbuds in. And so they're listening to the music and you're not aware of it. Whereas we come from the era of when you got some new music, you went straight to your car, put it in the CD player and turned it.
Man, Eric, look, had the block beaten. Like like you always had it in the car. Or you always had it playing. Like I used to keep a boombox on my front porch.
Yeah.
When I was coming up, and I used to like, that was the whole reason why, like when I was emceeing, like I had the song called "Live from the Porch," because what I used to do is like I had my little boombox, I had my chair. On weekends, like I'd come out. My cousin, he stayed in the projects, so he didn't have a hose because they ain't got no water. Outside water connection. So he would come through Saturday morning, wash his car. And while he washing his car, like I'm playing the tunes and we got all of the traffic coming up and down the block. And I'm just seeing this shit. And like we just experiencing this shit all at once. So a lot of the music that I was making was about that experience. And I will say that a lot of hip hop has done a bad job of aging with us. Because, I like I say, the Killer Mike record was phenomenal. I think Big Boy does a lot of great, phenomenal music that ages with us. Nas is a good example. Even more recent, like Jeezy projects, like he's matured a little bit. Rick Ross has matured a little bit. But I mean, for the grand scheme of things, like 90% of it isn't grown up. Like you said, we ain't in that space no more.
Yeah.
I was talking about Sexy Red not too long
Mhm.
ago. So you familiar with Sexy Red, right?
Yeah.
She out in the world right now, and everybody's like, oh my God, she's terrible, terrible image. And I'm like, man, like we've been rapping about hoes for 40 years. Eventually the hoes was gonna learn how to rap. Like, and it's not like we just didn't become, to your point, like we just didn't become like these super conservative folks when it came to decency the other day. No,
Yeah.
like you was out looking for the hoes. I remember we were in the car together looking for the hoes. Why you mad at the hoes now? Because you got a daughter and you don't want her becoming the hoes.
Mm-hmm.
Just acknowledge it, man. That's what I tell, some friends of mine. It's like it's the same shit. Like I will say the bars, like there is a level of like lyrical skill that I don't think is there with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of young rap, but the
Yeah.
content is universal. Like it's the same content.
Yeah, definitely. I think the level of, the level of skill that you talk about, I think a lot of that it goes back to the ease and the access that you were talking
Mm-hmm.
about earlier. Like, I remember, you know, we're probably, our teen years, and this
Mm-hmm.
is before I got into it, but you would have to save up money for studio time and,
Mm-hmm.
get things pressed up. And so going through this process, for one, it takes time, it takes money, and you want to make sure that you're not wasting your time essentially on some bullshit, you know,
Yeah.
or if you found somebody with the money to front you on that, they wanted to make sure they wasn't gonna waste their time on some bullshit. So
Mm-hmm.
hey, so you go in and spit some bars, and be like, hey, nah, this ain't it. You gotta step it up. But now there's, you know, you hear a lot about gatekeeping. I think we need some gatekeepers
Yeah.
somewhere, because it's too easy to, like you said, grab your phone, record a song, hit a few buttons, and bam, it's out there to the world. And it's like everything ain't ready for the world.
Everything ain't ready. Everything ain't ready. And I think the issue that we have, I think we might be too far gone. I hope we not, but I think we too far gone for gatekeeping just because like we don't own a lot of this shit no more. We
Mm-hmm.
don't own a lot of this hip hop shit no more. And that it's fucked up, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Um and then, I also think about like now we've got like a two-way algorithm, right? Because everything is digital and the click don't care whether or not, like, I think, some of these people are going crazy and doing numbers because they're whack. But
Mm-hmm.
every time you share something, every time I share something, even if it's to crack a joke, like, hey man, look at this whack dude, right? Like terrible,
Yeah,
most terrible, like the algorithm don't care. It
yeah,
counts as an interaction.
yeah.
So I also think like negative feedback is kind of turning into a positive for some of these folks. Like they're just being ironically successful.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, yeah, it's that old saying: the only bad publicity is no publicity.
Right,
You know,
right.
you said the click don't care. If I Whether I saved it to laugh at it or saved it because I loved it, it just counted the save.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely that. And like we were talking about, the earbuds. So I don't think music doesn't feel as social to me anymore, which
Ooh,
I think
yeah.
is
Yeah.
is definitely something that I think affects. I think it affects people's connection with music, and potentially the quality of music, because
Mm-hmm.
you know like I can love a song and say, this is going to be in my headphones. Nobody around me knows about it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a good song that you might would have liked 15 years ago, if I was listening to it on a speaker in the gym, you never know about it now because it's just, a private experience.
Yeah, yeah. I can dig that because, and like I try to have conversations with my peoples, and I think that's just because of the age that we are in, and like how old we are.
Mhm.
But like the younger generation, like I don't really talk to them about music like that. I have no idea what they're listening to in their headphones. Half the time, I don't even know they got headphones in. My cousin, my younger cousin, she's got these special like earplugs. They look like Apple Jacks, and I literally thought it was an accessory because
Mhm.
she's a very colorful young woman. Um, she's got all of the things, right? Um, very very pleasing to look at on Instagram. Like she's the young black woman aesthetic. Like she's not doing anything wrong, but I mean, like she's very stylish, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking, oh, like you must have got like the new hotness earbuds, or jewelry or whatever. She's like, oh yeah, well they do this, that, and the third, and you can listen to things and everything. I didn't know what the hell was in her ear. And but yeah, we don't really we talk a little bit about music, but not a lot. And also even I'll go further and to say like when we do have social interactions with strangers about music, like it's in an instant. Like if you didn't listen to it when it came out
Mhm.
or the day that it went viral and everybody talked about it on Twitter for 6 hours, you missed your
Mhm.
chance.
Yeah.
You missed your chance. And it's
Yeah.
just
I mean,
hard to keep up with.
yeah, I think, I can look at that just going through like the music that I listen to, like quote unquote, older, when I'm listening to older music, just because I want to listen to it, like there's kind of a cutoff period of
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to I'm listening to songs and albums past a certain date. And the newer stuff I listen to less because, like you said, it's everything's so quick. It didn't have time to latch on in the same way. You know,
Yeah.
um, I'm a big, I guess I still am, or I was a big Drake fan when he first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Probably up until probably if you're reading this, it's too late. Is probably the last Drake project that I really go back to. You
Mm.
know, Scorpion, listen to it like, nothing wrong with it, but I don't go back to Scorpion or Views the same way I go back to a Take Care or a Nothing Was the Same.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
it didn't it didn't latch. It was good for its time and moved on, you know.
Yeah. I think the the experience is taken out of the music.
Yeah.
Like a lot of this music, like it's the experience is just it's just not there. Like I remember, like I've got memories with some of my favorite albums, and I'm even some of my not so favorite albums, but then I just like listen to, like I have experiences with all these music, so like there's a memory that goes back to it. So like I'll uh Juvie the Great
Mhm.
was a pretty decent Juvenile album. I'm not a fan of every song on the album. It's got a couple skips in my opinion, but I listen to it and I still like listening to it. And I still even listen to some of the songs that I used to skip now just because of the nostalgia, because I remember a weekend where I was in Evansville in Indiana. It was the summertime and I'm going back and forth um to Henderson. So for those who aren't familiar with the geography of Southern Indiana, so Southern Indiana shares a border with Kentucky. Evansville is one of those border cities. Its sister city in Kentucky is Henderson, and there's a bridge over the Ohio River to get to it. And I was going back and forth this weekend, like this summer weekend, because I was out getting a piece of the action. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was out getting a piece of the action. Like there was functions on both sides of the river. There were women ladies on both sides of the river that I was kind of kicking it with and trying to get after. So like I just found myself going back and forth. And I had a CD changer in the car. I had the CD changer in the car. So talking about like how media has evolved, like as another thing, when you had that, like you could only put 6 CDs, 5 CDs in that CD changer. So that
Mm-hmm.
rotation might be your rotation for the next couple of weeks. Like you wanted to make sure you had some heavy hitters in that motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
And I had Juvie the Great in my CD changer. And it's just like as I was going back and forth, like every time I hit that damn bridge, like it had got to Juvie the Great. So like I will always pair that album with that experience. And
Yeah.
there are very few records now that I can pair with an experience. It's just background noise.
Yeah. Very much. Yeah. Very much so. Uh, like he's talking about the Juvie the Great. Uh, it was that way for us in I guess this would have been what, summer of '05, probably. Does that sound right? Summer of '05, maybe '06. I had to do, quick Google search, but Jeezy's first album,
Ooh,
Motivation.
yes.
Like that was me and my crew at the time. That was a necessity for us when we were going out, and like you said, this is back in the days of still physical CDs, we needed, we needed our various forms of paraphernalia that we needed to
Mm-hmm.
activities at the time. We needed to make sure we had our phones, money, and we made sure we had the Jeezy CD.
Yeah.
Somebody was in charge of that. We're not leaving the house without the CD right now.
Look, man, that man, when Jeezy, when man, his introductory run, I mean, that's gonna be like hip hop Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I mean, like Thug Motivation 101, but I mean, even a lot of the mixtapes. So, one of like will always be in my top 10 mixtapes of all time is gonna be Can't Ban the Snowman. Like
Mm.
that shit was amazing, but I mean, it was like you had to have it. The
Yeah.
night didn't feel right if you didn't have it. And now it's just, let me put the shit on shuffle. Oh, well, like this doesn't look good. Like I'll give my wife the phone. Like, hey, baby, I'm driving, just fucking find a record to play.
Yeah.
Or you could just skip eternally, you know, just you could skip 500 times. Even I remember like first having Google Play Music, and like I still don't pay for Spotify. I pay for YouTube Music. Um but I mean like when I wasn't paying for, and so Spotify is now like it with the ads, but you only had so many skips even when we first went digital.
Yeah.
Like you might get like 4 skips in an hour and you done. Like you got to go. You got to just stay the course. It don't matter if it's Barbara Streisand playing. Like
Definitely.
we here.
Nothing you can do about it. Yeah. I remember, yeah, I think that's a lot of it. I think the experience that we have with the music has changed, and I think because of that, because music, I think is less social. I think that people, especially a lot of young people, are becoming less open to different kinds of music because
Mm.
they're listening to what they're listening to, and they're not being influenced as much. Um, I remember when I went to Europe. Uh, when I was a teenager, I was part of an ambassador program. And I remember I spent weeks before this trip downloading music, burning CDs, printing labels, so,
Mm.
I got the big, huge, CD binder or whatever. and I got inserts, and so I know what's on every CD in this book, which one of those things that we always talked about doing, but we didn't always do.
Yeah.
So that became, that made me sort of the man for that purpose on that trip, because I listened to all sorts of different music. I had rap, pop, some country songs on there. So it was very much, hey, you want to hear this song? Oh, you need this CD right here. This is the song you're looking for. It's number 5. And now it's just, I remember I had a friend going on a road trip, and they were just like, give me some songs to download. And it's like, just a list of songs. And it's like, I mean, it's good, but at the same time, you didn't really have to do nothing for that.
Yeah. You ain't got to put in no work, man. And like, I just, going back to your point about like hearing music that other people are listening to. Like, I just remember when we first got to college, everybody's unpacking their dorm rooms. Everybody's got their music playing, and everybody's got something different playing. Like, you just walk the halls and everybody is listening to something different. And sometimes it's dope, sometimes it's not. But I mean, you might find yourself like hanging out with the rock and roll cats or the country cats, or somebody might have some like weird oddball, like Peruvian flute music. Shout out to Andre 3000.
Not the album we got.
Yeah, look, well, talking about new releases, I'm actually gonna be playing that tomorrow morning. Like, as I'm walking the dog, I'm gonna have it going. But I mean, he's always always gonna be one of my favorite MCs. But I mean, still, like, that's how you get introduced to it. And I think not only is hip hop becoming more of an individual, well, not just hip hop, just music in general is becoming an individual experience. The algorithm and the continuous feedback loop that these apps put us in, we often, because it's like, well, since you like this, we're going to give you something similar, or we're going to give you another song that this artist is featured on. And it's really easy to find yourself listening to the very same thing over and over again. So now you're maybe getting like this piece of the game because you're listening to the same 5-6 people. I have to break my algorithms every couple of weeks. Like, I'll just throw like some oddball, song in there, and then just let it shuffle after that, just so I'm not listening to the same songs over and over when I get to like my favorites playlist or whatever.
Yeah, because that algorithm and that shuffle, it'll get you, because it ain't that. I feel like this algorithm, like, you don't know me like that. You like the person you're suggesting music for right now don't exist. That was 5 minutes ago. Like, I've now changed into a different person. Give me the music I need. So yeah, I definitely understand that, because I'll put on something on Spotify. I don't pay for Spotify right now either, and so I'll be listening to something, and it's giving me what it thinks I like, and it's like, no, you went the wrong direction. This ain't what I wanted at all. And I think it makes it harder. I think it's very much made it harder for artists, I think, to break through and reach another level of connection with the audience, and it's just in the music business in general. I think probably the most impressive thing I've seen in maybe ever in the music business is, I don't know, and a part of it, streams and sales or whatever, how successful Taylor Swift's music has been with these re-releases. The fact that she's going platinum on albums that she literally already put out.
That's that core fan base right there. That's she got some fan, like, between like her, Beyonce, and it's like maybe five other people, like they can put whatever out. And I mean, and that's not to say that they're doing bad. Like,
Yeah.
I although I don't listen to Taylor Swift, like she's obviously putting out great music for her to be as wildly successful as she is. Um,
I mean, I
but
think Taylor Swift right now she's become the Air Jordan of music.
yeah, yeah.
Like the album was already out. You had the album, and now she's just releasing Taylor's version of the album. I'm going to get this one too. It's like the Jordans. Like they hadn't made a Jordan in what, 15, 20 years?
Yeah, yeah.
It's you. Just
And
we put the red over here this time. We put a different
that's it.
this time. I gotta have it.
And all power to her, because she's getting more money now than she was under the previous label, because she's got more ownership over the thing. But yeah, like she's just putting out, it's her version. It's like, yeah, just change the stripes. Which is, I mean, it's great for her. But yeah, like it's hard. I think now what I see a lot of like mid independent artists doing is they're trying to sell people on the experience. So, not even worried about going platinum. There's this cat, LaRussell, who I follow. He's a dope MC, and he does a lot of talking about how to make the interactions more meaningful. So, like, if he's having more meaningful experiences with his fans and his core fan, like, he doesn't need that many core fans. Like, he doesn't need to sell out, Madison Square.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's got, like a couple thousand core fans that really rock with him and like actually buy his CD or buy his record or buy his merch, like he's able to pocket more than, let's say, just living off of streams. Because you can't live off of no motherfucking streams unless you're doing like big numbers. I think now you don't even get paid if you don't break like 1,000 plays or something like that.
Yeah, I think that the experience you talk about, I mean, even with us as content creators, I think more and more people are getting into the idea of small numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like it used to be like, I want to be a rapper. Oh, I got to sell, 3 million records. And it's like, no, I don't need to sell 3 million records. I need to be able to get, if I can get 5,000 people in the whole world to be willing to spend $3-4 a month. That's $10,000-$15,000 a month that, keeps coming in for whatever form of content that is, And you think 5,000 people, that's not many out of however many billion there are in the world. So it's like you said, that experience, I don't need to be super famous. I just need to find people that rock with me.
Yeah. And that's what I've been trying to do. I mean, like, the library is like, it's a relatively new show. We're wrapping up season 2, and I started recording maybe like a year ago. Right. And we're at like 1,300 views an episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's 1,300 people that at least like clicked on it. And I know, some of it is not, it's probably not a true 1,300. Maybe it's like 850, because I don't know how the numbers are being padded. But I mean, still, like, the capacity or average Starbucks is what, 90 people?
Yeah, something like that.
So like I could fill up a coffee shop and just, like, have people listen to, and I think that's important. And I agree 100%. Like, we just need people to rock with us, and there's obviously value in what we're talking about because people listen, people share it, right?
Yeah, people listen, people share, it's just, at the end of the day, like you said, it's about getting people to rock with you in some form or another, and however you can do that, that's what it's all about. And I like that. I think that's a good place to wrap things up. thank you for rocking with me today. Thank you
Absolutely, man.
for letting me use this technology to perhaps put some YouTube flavor on it instead of just the audio. And one more time, tell the people where they can find you and be on the lookout for you.
Yeah, so you can find me at Smithsonian DJ on TikTok, Twitter. Rapgeo.net is the website for the Hip Hop Map Project. And then if you go on YouTube and look up the Appraise the Phrase show, we are a channel within the channel. So you can find the library as a YouTube playlist. And then yeah, that's just me where I'm at. You can find Cocaine Buffs Volume 0 streaming on all platforms. Cocaine Buffs Volume 1 to probably come out spring of 2024. Since I don't get paid off of this stuff, I got to go make the donuts, right? So that's the other issue, you know what I'm saying? Like since this is our, I guess, advanced hobby, if you will, we're able to say what we want to without being swayed by the promise of funds. And I just want to say again, my brother, I appreciate you for bringing me onto your platform and just kicking it with you, man. It's been, like I say, it's been fucking 2 decades, and I probably ain't seen you in person in about 15. So, yeah, glad to see you. Glad to see you healthy. I appreciate you, my brother. And yeah, we'll kick it for a little bit after we stop the recording and everything and all of that good stuff, man.
All right, man. Sounds good. Sounds good. Like I said, thank you for rocking with me. Thank you all for listening, watching, playing along, hanging out. If you hadn't already, hit those buttons that you need to hit, whether it says follow, like, subscribe, favorite. Do what you got to do. Share, leave a 5-star review, comment, tell us what you think. And I'll see you next time. Thank you very much.